All right, Going Yard softball fans, you asked and we delivered. Not only can you enjoy listening to interviews with some of the biggest names in softball, but you can now enjoy savings from the hottest softball apparel and merchandise store on the net. We are proud to announce our affiliation with Softball Lifestyle 101. You can now save 10% off of your entire order by entering the promo code GYP10 at checkout. That's shirts, hoodies, book bags, jewelry, and much, much more. Visit softballlifestyle101.com and remember to use the promo code GYP10 at checkout for 10% off, and you can find those links in our show notes in bio. Hey, what's up, softball fans? Today we have a great interview with Destinee Martinez. She talks about her choice to go to Oklahoma and play with the Sooners. She also talks about the importance of time management and how she was able to also, take care of that fear factor that she had learned how to conquer back when she was in high school. Also, she talked about the importance of being a teammate, learning to be a cheerleader for her team in college, and also playing with her teammates and coming back to win a national championship in 2013. She also talks about what the 2020 Olympics means to her and what it means for the sport and the work that she's doing now with USA Softball and her work that she's also doing with MLB and the Play Ball Initiative. Great interview. Make sure you share this with all of your softball friends and family. It is a good one. Hey, Destinee, thanks for coming on the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. We're great. We're great. We love our softball interviews. We have such a strong following, and I know that our listeners will absolutely love this interview. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
If you can, Destinee, we like to start, kind of back, since we have so many young listeners, back your transition from high school time. How did a girl from California end up making it to the Midwest out to Oklahoma to play for one of the best schools in the country? If you could talk us through, some of the things you did to get seen, get exposure, and how your connection with Coach Gasso came to be and how you got recruited there.
Yeah. So I had been playing softball, and I started playing when I was 4. And my older sister actually got involved with Marty Tyson, who is a very competitive travel ball coach for the Corona Angels in California. So when she started playing for him, kind of followed that path. My family understood the type of coach he was and how great he is, and how he's not only focused on field. He's very aggressive, like with us in the classroom, and he's very passionate about getting us to that next level. So I was fortunate enough to start playing with him when I was 12, all the way up through high school. I went to Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Corona, and I was able to play against top pitching in high school. Cameron May, Tegan Gerhardt, some quality pitchers. So I was able to get some really good practice during high school season. But a lot of everything that I've experienced and everything that I've achieved has to go back to Marty Tyson. He's just an overall great coach. And of course, my parents with all of the recruiting process and making sure handling all the calls I need to make, dealing with coaches in the right way. So just playing with the right people, I guess, having those passionate leaders ahead of me has gotten me to where I'm at now. And then with Coach Gasso, she kind of won me over when I took my very first visit there. We were actually traveling to Oklahoma City anyways for ASA Nationals, and Marty Tyson had asked her if we could use their stadium as a practice field before the tournament got started. And so we were able to get on their field and practice with them. And before we started practice, Coach Gasso took me on a tour of the stadium, and I just remember my mom and dad being so excited over the fact that Coach Lombardi had her baby's bath in her office. I know that sounds silly, but it just kind of showed the family aspect of that team and that organization. So, I mean, that was huge to me. They welcomed me. I felt great there, and it just kind of felt like home. And I think if you talk to a lot of other athletes who end up wherever they're at, they just feel like they're at home once they step on that campus. So that's how I felt. Coach Gassis, she's tough, but I knew what I was getting into. And then I think one other main thing, and this is pretty funny. My dad said, "Well, do you want to play behind Kaylani, or do you want to have to hit off of her?" And so that was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, Dad, I should probably play behind her. So that was a huge thing. She was a year ahead of me. So just knowing what the program was going to turn into with the talent that was ahead of me, we made that decision as a family, and that's how where I'm at.
Now, you started playing like right away in college. So what was the biggest change for you going from high school softball to softball at the collegiate level?
Probably the time management of an everyday schedule. Like having to wake up for workouts at 6 a.m. and then be at class on time. And at OU, we had class checkers. Like, we could not be late. So we had to be in class on time, find somewhere to eat, some time in between then to eat. And then I was in class from about 8 to probably around 1, figure out time to eat lunch, and then get to practice by 2, on field by 2:33, practice until maybe like 5:36, and then get to study hall. I mean, it's just a lot as a freshman, so that transition is pretty tough. As far as on field, I feel like the mentality that Marty kind of instilled in me as an athlete growing up, I wasn't afraid is kind of the way I went in. That I wasn't very intimidated by anything, and I knew going in I had to earn these positions in this spot, but I wasn't afraid of competition. So I think, again, that goes back to Marty and the way that I was trained growing up to go in full force. And if you're not going to start, then you keep working until you are that starting player. So I think that was the biggest thing.
Now, just to follow up with that, we love talking about the mental part of the game. In terms of fear, can you pinpoint any type of quick lesson you had learned from Marty about conquering that? You know, what was like the main thing that kind of pushed you past worrying about the fear and just moving forward and playing the game that you know how to play?
Yeah, I think it was just being a champion in every aspect of life. And he was requesting great checks, and like he really touched every part of our life. So I think just his aggressiveness towards us, and me like not really wanting to ever upset him or let him down, or even my family. Like, I think I went in as I got to be the competitor that they've trained me to be. So I don't think that fear was like anything I really thought about. I don't feel like I was raised that way. But one thing is I guess the fear, if I had to name something, would be of letting my mentors down.
Now, if you can you just talk us through what are a couple of the things, like some of the biggest life lessons you learned while being a student athlete? Was it, you brought up time management. What were some of the other things, if it's accountability, respect, what are some of those things that you learned at your time at Oklahoma? Obviously, athletes pick colleges for different reasons. So what were some of the things you learned while being there, not just specifically on the field?
Yeah, definitely time management. I think for the younger athletes that are getting ready to go into college, I really think that focusing on taking proper notes in lecture. I know that's something that I kind of struggled with when I first started. I mean, I'm in classes with like 400 kids, and the teacher doesn't know who I am. The teacher honestly might not care who I am, and the grade depends on what is turned in. And like, that's just not something that you realize going into it, because in high school you're in classes with like maybe 30, 40 kids, and you have that personal relationship. I I'd also say, like, taking advantage of your tutors and your academic advisors. I know that OU provided me with an academic advisor who kind of helped me. We had to turn our syllabus into her at the beginning of each semester, and she kind of helped us keep up with what's due, what tests are coming up, and then take advantage of your tutors. I mean, some athletic departments should have tutors for you to get in line, and you say, hey, I know this might sound silly, but I'd like to have a tutor for this class just to make sure that everything is getting done correctly. So I would really recommend taking advantage of all of the resources that universities provide. And as far as on field, I think I learned how to be a really good teammate, cheerleader for my teammates. OU kind of has a really close bond, but I feel like at OU more than ever, I was genuinely excited for teammates to do anything great, whether it's the classroom, on field, stealing bases, like pinch runners, like you feel that excitement. So I think to the young player, I would say cheer your teammates on, like really appreciate what they work on, and kind of get to learn your teammates. I think that, like, if I knew one of our pitchers was working on a pitch and she's like figuring that pitch out, like celebrate that. I think that if you can really understand what your teammates are working on, then you're able to cheer them on. And then it's a bigger celebration and it's more impactful when they do achieve those goals.
Great answer. Now, in 2013, you played in the national championship. What was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
I think praying with my teammates after, that was very important to me. That's one moment that I'll never forget. Obviously, I'll never forget the dog pile. I came running in from center field, so I got to be on top. But one big takeaway, and honestly, this might sound silly too, is that the year before we took second. So to see my teammates achieve, and we had almost all returners that year. So to see my teammates able to celebrate what we all lost together the year before, I think was the most impactful situation I've ever been a part of. To see everybody kind of celebrate when we all went through a loss the previous year.
Now, one thing I wanted to kind of ask was because at Oklahoma, you were there, you guys had won, you basically went to the Women's College World Series every single year, so expectations were super high every single year, winning a conference title every single year. How do you manage those expectations? I mean, because, Oklahoma, you're right there near Oklahoma City where the Women's College World Series is. I mean, it's the heartbeat kind of college softball every single season. All eyes every single year on Oklahoma. So, as a team, as a player, a part of it, how did you manage expectations? And, not the game's tough enough. I mean, how do you play and perform with that kind of pressure on you in every game, basically, at Oklahoma?
Right. Honestly, I didn't feel the pressure. I know that it can pile up, and I know that as a team we had to calm each other down a little bit. But I think that Coach Gasso does a really, really good job of humbling us and saying it doesn't matter if we're number one in the rankings. It doesn't matter if we're this. And she would still get on to us if we won a game and it wasn't our best game. So she kind of kept us down to earth and didn't let the pressure affect us. She was really, really good at controlling kind of our emotions in a sense. And just letting us know, like, hey, you guys could be number one on this field, but you can still play not at your best. And we need to play at our best. I don't care what all the ratings are saying and all that kind of stuff. So she was really good about humbling us and trying to relieve that pressure. And our fans too. We would have some fans who got upset, but a lot of them are very supportive. And I think that with them too, they tried to relieve the pressure by just being so supportive. And if we went out to a game and we maybe felt some pressure, they were very supportive with it kind of sounds silly, but like at Air, they're like telling us, you guys are fine. Like, you'll figure it out. You'll learn from it, whatever. But I think the pressure wasn't a huge issue at OU.
Now, I just wanted to ask before we kind of move on to a couple other things here since it's kind of relevant. What do you think of how Coach Lombardi's going to do out there at Oregon this year? And then when it's all kind of said and done, where do you think Coach Gasso ends up on that, like Pat Summitt, basketball women's coach, probably best ever? I mean, where does Coach Gasso end up in that list of women's college softball coaches, do you think?
Yeah, and I think that she's the best college coach. I'm not even saying that just because of I played for her. Obviously, I have those experiences with her, and I've been able to learn from her. But she really slows the game down. She really takes the time to invest in each individual athlete. And I think that those are the traits that you need as a coach. It's not just, hey, you guys are a team and you guys should be winning together. And she really takes the time to invest in each personal athlete on a personal level, and really mentor them through every aspect of their life. Like, I'm still very close to her. I'll do broadcasting for the games. I know that I can call her and invite myself over for dinner. She just has built those relationships, and she is a very strong leader in Christ. She's a strong leader in on the field, off the field, friendships. I need advice for anything. And I think that those are the kind of connections that separate a good coach from an average coach, just really investing in each athlete. And as far as Lombardi, I think she's going to do great. I know that with some of the athletes leaving, or a lot of the athletes leaving, it's a tough pill for her to swallow, I'm sure. But I think she's been under Coach Gasso for 20 years, so I know she's a strong woman. I know that she makes great decisions. I know that she'll be just fine. And I'm excited to see where she goes.
No, this question I didn't have written down, but I was a center fielder. My wife was a center fielder, and I love asking this question just because, especially from the softball side, because your answer might not be a softball player. It could be a Major League Baseball player, or it could be somebody that you actually played with in college or high school. So when it came to center fielders or just outfielders in general, who was that player that you watched and wanted to emulate as a young softball player growing up?
Caitlin Lowe.
Yeah?
Caitlin Lowe was my go-to girl. I wanted to go to Arizona when I was younger. I looked up to her. I know she played on Team USA. I wanted to be Caitlin Lowe. I think on one of my bios it says if you could have dinner with any athlete, she's on there.
I knew you were going to say that because I did read that in your bio.
How did they let you get? How did Arizona? How did Cal? How did UCLA? How did they all let you get out of the state or in that area and go all the way to the Midwest? I mean, how'd that happen? Honestly, how'd they miss you?
I don't. I don't know. I honestly didn't have a relationship with UCLA or Arizona. Kind of came around with a couple questions after I had been talking to Coach Gasso. I did take a trip to Washington. I had a trip scheduled to Michigan, but I committed to OU first. And then I was talking to Texas Tech, but I'm not sure. In my mind, though, and one of my plans was to leave California. I knew I wanted to get out of there. So it's okay because I don't know if I would have. I mean, it would have been tough to pass up UCLA, of course, but I also kind of had a plan to get out of there. So okay, I think it all worked out. It all worked out well.
Yeah. It did. Let's transition here a little bit, kind of into your time with USA softball and what that experience was like, and how did you, become a part of that?
So, okay, I'm not even really sure how I got seen. There's a selection committee, and I don't know where they were, who was on it at the time, but I got an email from the committee saying that I had been invited to a tryout, and at this time, this was the junior national team, I think in 2010, and we had a tryout in Chula Vista, so I went, and it was last minute, too. I guess Marty had gotten a call. And he said, why don't you check your emails? Somebody in your family has an email from USA and you haven't responded. So I think I found out maybe like 2 weeks before the tryout. So got the email, found out I made the team. We went to, where did we go? Colombia the first year. We went to Colombia, won a gold medal there. And then we went to South Africa and beat Japan in the finals there. And that was 2011 in South Africa. And then I think just from being in the junior program, it kind of escalated to keeping me involved. And as an athlete, you go into a player's pool. And so as the committee picks the players for the next year, they're able to kind of look at who's been in the program. And I think being on the junior team kind of helped me continue to be invited to the tryouts and so on each year. So there was one year that I didn't make the team. And the next 3 years, I believe I was on the team. I got to go to Puerto Rico, Canada, the Netherlands, Italy, and I think that's it. But yeah, it's been a great experience. I've gotten to see a lot of the world. When I go talk to kids, I tell them, like, who you would never think that a yellow softball is going to take you all around the world. So I'm just very blessed and thankful for it, because there's so many things that I've seen that I never would have thought just through the game. It's really crazy.
What do you think the biggest change is from college softball to the national level? What was the biggest difference for you?
I think just playing internationally, the players from other countries don't play the way that we're used to seeing opponents here in the States. Like playing against Japan, they are so fast at doing everything that it's kind of like nerve-wracking. And just playing other teams like Mexico, like adjusting to the pitching, like some of the pitchers can move the ball a little bit, some of them can throw hard, but it's just different. Crow hopping is allowed, so it's just a little bit different look to the game. I wouldn't necessarily say that mindset or mechanics or anything like that really had to change. But playing overseas in different countries and then seeing a different style of opponents every game was probably the toughest thing, I think.
If you can, Destinee, can you just talk a little bit about how important, strength conditioning, nutrition, all those types of things as an athlete, whether it be, collegiately, as a high school player, collegiately, professionally, how important those things are all tied together in performing so that you're ready to perform on the field at the highest level?
Yeah. So in high school, I wasn't really taught this stuff. I know that I exercised a lot. I was always in running. I always did running classes, and then obviously school scouts kept me in shape. But as far as nutrition, I didn't really learn much about that to college. For the high school kids listening, I would recommend that you look into it. I'm not going to say you need to all be on diets or anything crazy like that, but I think that having the awareness of how nutrition can really affect your body, the field. I mean, your days are long. Eating some things that you would definitely want to eat because it's quick or whatever can really affect your body and your performance. And this is something that I didn't really learn until I got to college. And I play for Team USA. I played that last summer after college, but I didn't play after I graduated college for my summer. So I didn't really have that. I have to find that balance of, okay, I'm not a college athlete anymore, but I'm still playing. So I never had to really figure out that balance. But now that I'm not an athlete anymore, I really have come to understand the way that your body feels. So I would just listen to your body, get it the nutrients it needs, but don't hesitate to enjoy yourself. Don't turn this into a lifestyle. As long as you're exercising and eating somewhat smart, your performance should be fine. And I think just having that in the back of your mind, like, hey, your body is going to help your performance. And if you're feeling at bad things, it's probably not going to be your best. So definitely, if you want to be at your best, kind of just monitor what you're taking in.
Awesome. Now, can you tell us for you, what does the softball, going back to the Olympics, what does that mean to you, and what does that mean for the sport as a whole, in your opinion?
That's huge. It's a big deal, and it's tough because I don't play anymore. So I would have loved to continue to play and get to see this sport get there. I actually get to work for USA Softball now, so hopefully I can get myself to Tokyo. But I think in general, every little girl's dream is, and it's real. I know it's only voted in for Tokyo as of now, but hopefully we can get it into the 24 Paris Olympics. And then I'm crossing my fingers 28 is a for sure because it's in LA. But I think just knowing that every little kid's dream is back to reality. It gives the kids something to look forward to. Because for a while, Team USA is really on the map. And unfortunately, there's not a lot for the girls to look up to after college. We do have the league, but it's as well known, and it's not like the most competitive, top notch like you would with Team USA. So I think just knowing that every little kid's dream is Team USA, and just know that it's back, and hopefully we can keep in the Olympics for the next years to come. It'll be fun to see the kids to strive for that dream.
Now, Destinee, you just brought up that you work for USA Softball. I see. We know that you're the event manager. Can you talk a little bit about how I guess you got into that role and what that role entails, and kind of what your day-to-day life is and interaction with USA Softball and everything that you're doing with them?
Yeah. So I am an event manager for the facility. So I put on some events at the stadium, and very involved in the World Series. Obviously, I get to staff that, work with the third-party vendors that are there, and then just day to day. One of my main roles right now is that I'm a liaison between baseball and U.S. softball. So what that means is any of the support that Major League Baseball is providing to Team USA, it goes through me. So, and then we all help them with Play Ball Initiative, which is something the partnership is thrived on. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Play Ball Initiative, but I'll give a little bit of background on that. So that is something that Major League Baseball has fully invented and has gone with for the last 4 years. And what this initiative is to just get kids playing the bat and ball sports. So they'll travel to different cities. They take this event to all different areas, and they target schools and try to get kids to the one location to run them through 5 stations of just softball, baseball. So the 5 stations are agilities, there's base running, there's ground balls and pop flies, there's wiffle ball, there is a home run derby, and then sometimes we'll throw just a game of catch in there. But what that does is give the kids the opportunity to kind of learn the sport. They may not be doing it at school. They may not know anything about it. And then from there, we send the kids home with a bat and a ball, and then encourage them to find a league and sign up locally. So that is one huge event that we have worked on at Major League Baseball. So we also do Play Ball Park, and that's at the All-Star Week for MLB. So we do a lot of stuff with Major League Baseball, and that is one of my major tasks as an event manager for the stadium. Right now we're under construction, so we don't really have as many events, but we'll be ready for the World Series, and that is probably the biggest event of the year. So
now, I mean, it's funny if you watch, you see some of the bios or interviews or conversations with collegiate softball players or even pro softball players. You see that they started playing baseball when they were like 4 or 5 or 6 years old. So I guess it's probably how many girls do you get to come out to these play ball events that you have that are in that age group that you hopefully, I guess the thing is to try and turn them into softball when they get to that 6, 7, 8-year-old age group. Is that the hope with the connection between the two?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we fully support girls playing baseball. There's also a Team USA women's baseball team. We're going to support kids playing baseball and softball. Obviously, there's no women's baseball in college, so a lot of girls end up playing softball anyway. But we fully support it. And at these events, we get a lot of girls. It's probably 50-50 when we have each event. And a lot of them, when we're doing a home run derby station, for example, we'll throw to them as a baseball player, we'll throw to them underhand. So they kind of get to experience both, and we teach them the difference. So I think for the kids that don't really know, they'll kind of mold into softball. But we also just did a camp in Compton at the youth academy there. And it was a women's baseball and women's softball clinic, where we ran all of the girls through baseball and softball stations. So they got to learn how to pitch like a baseball player. They got to learn how to pitch like a softball player. So there's really, we just want them playing. That's really all it is.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. Now let's take you back to when you were that age. If you could tell your 12, 13, even earlier than that, your old self anything about the game or life, what would it be?
I think to just appreciate it. I think now that not being in the game anymore and getting to see a lot of former teammates still playing, and I think just seeing the appreciation and where it's gotten you and where it could take you. So if I'm telling my 13-year-old self something, it would just be to imagine a big picture of what this sport can do. Because I think when you're 13, you're kind of like, oh, I got to go to practice, or, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this. And really, I would have told myself to look at it as like, I get to do this. Just being on the administration side of softball, I've met people who don't get this opportunity, or the opportunities that I was given and I didn't appreciate. Like my parents had me in running classes and slapping lessons, paying for Marty to be my coach. And there's just so much and I didn't really appreciate it. But that's how you are at that age. I feel like, I think I would have just told myself to look at the bigger picture and kind of understand what this can really do for you and your life.
You know, it's crazy when you said that quote. I instead of "I have to do this" to "I get to do this," that would be a great shirt. Softball. I get to do this. That's pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah.
What's the biggest piece of advice you would give a teenage girl right now? You know, whether it's on or off the field, it doesn't matter. But the girls these days have social media. There are things coming at them from everywhere. Obviously there's all these distractions. What would be your biggest piece of advice to teenage girls that are going through a tough time or a positive time? What would be some of the pieces of advice you would give them to get through some of those things?
Yeah, I think social media is such a poison. I feel like, I know it's very beneficial for networking and doing stuff in the working world, but I think just for girls, just be you. Don't compare yourself to everybody you're seeing on social media. Don't compare yourself to anybody. And then I think one other thing as a young girl is the boys. Stay away from the boys. Do not involve them in any of your decisions. Going to college, what you do on the weekends, because there's a time and a place that you will have that time. It's tough because I've heard so many stories in the last few years of girls who are not making decisions on schools and going certain places because of the boy in their life at the time. Don't do that. Please do that.
We are going to have our daughters listen to this episode.
No doubt. We might have them call you if you don't mind, just so that you can reiterate that.
I've just heard way more than I would like. So there's a message getting across majors that he does not need to be involved in your future life decisions.
That is powerful because our daughters we don't have to worry about that right now just because they're 11 years old. But that's we were in high school and in love, and we know what it feels like where you think you can't live without somebody for whatever, and
right.
So yeah, that's powerful. I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
What are some of your personal goals within the next 3 to 5 years? But also, what are some of your goals for USA softball and what you're doing there in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think one of my big goals, just personally, is to do as much as I can to grow the game, and that's on a personal level, and that's also for the organization I work with. I really just do what I can to grow the game in any way, shape, or form. So whether it's personal people contacting me, hey, can you come coach these kids or speak to this group or do this? Yes, I can go on behalf of myself. But I will try to go on behalf of USA softball because we also want the game to grow as much as we possibly can. And I think or as far as organization, just getting USA softball back on the map with, getting them involved in baseball to get their names out there, their names and their faces, doing whatever I can to promote the game from an organization standpoint, and doing whatever I can do for the athletes to be noticed, getting them involved in anything and everything that we possibly can, because if they're noticed, then our sport is noticed. And if they can be the role models that I have, then our sport will continue to grow.
Now, as we wind down this episode here, Destinee, I just wanted to know if you had any topics you wanted to kind of bring up that maybe we haven't jumped on just yet. If there was anything on your mind you wanted to say before we got you out of here.
No, I think this is really good for having me.
Yeah, no problem. No, this is going to be great. You gave a lot of really good information. One thing I like that we're starting to ask here, and it's really cool because our whole goal with this is just to connect people through networking and obviously to get people who are listening the information they need to get to the next level, whether it be linking them up with a program that people are offering, or just watching videos on someone's YouTube account or Instagram. So that's our whole goal with this. But we like to ask, who do you think would be a great episode for a great interview for us to bring onto the show? Someone to reach out to. If you could pick one person, who do you think that person would be?
Yeah, I think Jessica Schultz. She's one of my best friends. She was a catcher for OU. She's a very great advocate for the sport. She's a assistant coach at Houston right now, but she's kind of been under the radar a little bit. And I have a lot of good things to say and a lot of great things to share. She's given the opportunity. She has a great heart for softball. She loves where she's at in her career. I'm proud of her. So everything that I know she has to say would be great.
Awesome.
For this show.
Well, let's get that set up.
Now, Destinee, you've given us some great information. You've had some great advice for girls. If any of the young girls or coaches out there or dads like us that have young girls wanted to reach out and get some advice, and you were willing, would you be willing, to have them reach out to you? If so, what would be the best way to contact you? If it was, through Instagram or your email or something like that, if you could just let people know how they could get in contact with you, that'd be great. Or if they wanted more information on what you're doing with USA softball and the events that are coming up.
Yeah, definitely. They can reach out to me both. I'm fine with both. Instagram is D_Martinez. Oh. And then my email address, you guys can all have this too, d.martinez00@AOL.com. So feel free. I will help with anything softball related, any advice. I can try to make a trip somewhere. I will do whatever to help this sport.
I didn't have this question written down, but I have to ask it because I know you were 00. So a lot of people have cool stories when it comes to why they picked that number. What was your reason for that?
I don't have a cool story. Oh no, you put me on the spot. I really don't have a cool story.
Well, that's cool.
It was when I was an All-Stars when I was growing up. I was 99, and then I went to a team and I couldn't get that, so I just went with the 00. not that cool, but
That's a cool
that's
story.
why.
I like it. And I thought that worked out perfect. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, last question here. We ask every guest we have on our show this question, and we've had many great answers. If you had one at bat in a professional softball game, what song would you choose for your walkout song?
I would probably go with California Love by Tupac.
All right.
Now is that a little throwback to your hometown, kind of a little bit of feeling there?
That's what it would have to be. Yep, of course.
Awesome. Well, Destinee, we thank
Shout
you.
out California.
Awesome. We thank you so much for coming on the show, and we look forward to seeing everything you're going to be doing within the next couple years with USA Softball.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. We'd love to stay in touch with you and catch up again down the road as you grow this USA softball and play ball events. They look incredible from what we've seen online.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Take care. All right. Hope y'all enjoyed that interview with Destinee Martinez. A lot of good information there. Make sure you share that with everyone you know in the softball world. And make sure you follow us on all things social media at Going Yard Podcast. And here we go. Here's a new name for you guys. On Twitter, we are no longer Going Yard in the number 2. We are now at GY Podcast. So you can find us on Twitter, GY Podcast.
We're one letter too long for a Twitter handle. How annoying is that?
It is so annoying.
Yes. Don't forget to check out our website, goingyardpodcast.com. All kinds of good stuff on there. So make sure you check that out. Subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, Google Play. Leave us a 5-star review if you could. That way we can climb those podcast rankings.
That's right. So that's a wrap for this episode of the Going Yard Podcast. So for Destinee Martinez and all of us here at the Going Yard Podcast, I'm Dan.
And I'm Tyler. See ya.
Later.